Do you know who changed the history of American golf? I believe 80% of Americans can answer this question. I was just a poor caddy, cleaning clubs and carrying golf bags for others, unable to even afford to play. But years later, I stood on the course of the US Open and defeated the greatest golfer in the world. They said I didn't belong on that fairway. But at that moment, the whole world was watching my swing.
The first time I became interested in golf was when I was 8 years old, clinging to the fence and secretly watching those well-dressed gentlemen. With every swing they took, the ball soared like a shooting star across the turf, the most elegant motion I had ever seen in my childhood. I thought, if only I could become someone like them. So I became a caddy, polishing their clubs and carrying their bags every day, hiding behind trees to study their techniques. One day, I found a golf ball in the grass. I crouched down and picked it up. It was the first time I had ever touched something truly belonging to the course. Is this their world? I wondered. Maybe one day I could step into that world too? I started practicing in secret at night, using a discarded secondhand iron from the course owner and scavenged golf balls. With no one to teach me, I taught myself. I knew I didn't belong on that course, but I refused to spend my whole life watching others glory from outside the fence.
That day, my mother took me to watch Harry Vardon play. I squeezed through the crowd, looking up at him standing on the tee box. His proud posture and expression like a king who was born to belong on this course. When he asked if anyone wanted to give it a try, I almost instinctively rushed onto the stage. The moment I held the club, panic set in. The ball flew out in a ridiculous trajectory. Laughter exploded around me. I wished the ground would split open and swallow me whole. But Harry didn't laugh at me. Instead, he knelt down, took my hand, and said, "Imagine holding a little bird. Don't squeeze too tight to hurt it, but don't let it slip away either." At that moment, I felt a kind of respect I had never known before. I took a deep breath and swung again. With a crack, the ball flew out and landed right in the center of the fairway. Suddenly, applause rose from the crowd. It was the first time I had ever proved myself under everyone's gaze. From that moment on, I was no longer just Francis, who wanted to play golf. I knew I had to become someone like Harry Vardon.
Years passed, and I was still working as a caddy, sneaking in practice swings whenever I could. That day, just as I finished my last shot, Mr. Campbell, the golf course owner, came to find me. After seeing me complete the toughest course in New England, using just 81 strokes, he decided to recommend me for the National Amateur Championship. I stood frozen, my mind blank. Finally, I could step onto that course openly and take swings that truly belonged to me.
You're a caddy here?
Yes, sir. For 10 years.
But just as hope began to flicker, reality yanked me back hard. Entering the National Amateur Championship required $50. $50 to those club gentlemen, it might just be the cost of a single dinner. But for my family, it meant half a month's living expenses. My father's calloused hands never paused from work. He said golf was a game for gentlemen, nothing to do with poor folks like us. Yet he knew I wouldn't give up easily, so he made a wager.
Promise me, if you lose, no more golf. You give up this fool's game. You finish your schooling, you learn a trade, and you bring home an honest wage.
Yes, I promise.
That night, my heart churned with both unease and resolve. If I won this bet, I wouldn't just earn my father's respect. I'd win the right to keep chasing my dream.
Keep it for me. I'm going to the party.
Standing on the tee box, gazing at the endless fairway stretching before me, only one thought filled my mind: win. I took a deep breath and swung the first shot. The ball traced a graceful arc through the air, surpassing my opponents. The rankings kept changing and my position was quietly climbing. A surge of power, unlike anything I'd ever felt before, welled up inside me. Final hole. All I needed was one gentle putt to claim victory. Standing at the edge of the green, I bent slightly to aim. The ball seemed to await its final judgment. Just as I prepared to swing, I spotted a familiar figure in the crowd. My father. He stood in the farthest corner, watching me with an expressionless face. In that instant, my focus shattered. The putter veered slightly, and the ball missed its mark, skimming past the edge of the hole. I looked down, my fingers quivering faintly. As I left the course, I kept my head low like a child who'd done something wrong. I'd lost the match, and I'd lost the bet. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. One question haunted me. Was my father right? Did I truly not belong in this world? But when I remembered that little boy practicing relentlessly in the backyard, I knew this couldn't be the end.
I promised my father I'd learn business and stop actively touching golf clubs. But that longing in my heart never truly died out. Until 1913, when the president of the United States Golf Association came to find me.
We're holding our Open Championship there in 2 weeks. Your name came up. I'm looking to add a local amateur to the field.
At that moment, my chest felt both like a heavy boulder was pressing down on it and like a fire had been lit inside. I was willing to set out again because I still loved golf. Because even after being defeated, I still wanted to stand up and take another swing. This time, I wasn't just playing to win, I was playing to prove to myself that I hadn't been completely crushed by that failure. I was still here and I still wanted to fight one more time.
Meet me here. Sun up. You got some work to do.
I began waking up early to practice, structuring my daily training with clockwork precision. Putting, chipping, long drives, I methodically broke down each of my weakest areas. I was no longer satisfied with playing well. I wanted every shot to be as close to perfect as possible.
The day before the match, Billy came with bad news. He said he could no longer be my caddy. Someone had offered him $20 to carry their clubs, and I couldn't possibly match that. He left so quickly I didn't even get a chance to say a word to stop him. The tournament was tomorrow, and now I didn't even have anyone to hand me my clubs. Just as I was sinking into despair, a familiar voice spoke up behind me. It was Eddie. The kid who barely came up to my bag's height actually volunteered to be my caddy. This boy usually scavenged for balls on the streets and sold newspapers, with no experience in proper tournaments. Yet he stood up for me when no one else believed in me, becoming my only partner. He wasn't the most qualified caddy, but at that moment, he was exactly who I needed. We both came from nothing. No one ever taught us how to play golf or how to win. But perhaps precisely because we had nothing, we understood better what it meant to give it everything we had.
You got a problem?
On the opening day of the US Open, I stood on the course surrounded by reporters, gentlemen, and other players. Their gazes held curiosity, doubt, and even contempt. At the first hole, my hands could barely steady the club. Such intense nerves made every swing feel unnatural. Everyone was waiting to see this amateur player embarrass himself. Only Eddie encouraged me.
Whatever you decide, Francis, keep your head down and I'll watch the ball. Now, part this hole.
Seeing this young boy who placed such unwavering trust in me, I gradually found my resolve. I couldn't let him down. Even more, I couldn't let my past self, the one who had persevered all this time, have struggled in vain. Little by little, I regained my rhythm, pouring everything I had into making each shot my best. My score crept upward. By the second day, as I stood at the far end of the fairway, the breeze was light, but the silence around me felt deafening. Spectators whispered among themselves. I caught fragments of their doubts. He's just an amateur kid. He won't last till the final hole at this level. He'll crack.
But I didn't dare look up to respond. My eyes found only one person, my mother. She stood at the crowd's edge in her faded old dress. I took my stance, held my breath. The moment my club swung down, I felt the calm and steadiness unlike anything before. The ball rolled, skimmed the edge of the green, and dropped in. The stands erupted in applause and gasps. I heard someone shout my name. Tears glistened in my mother's eyes, but her smile was proud. I was no longer that trembling caddy. I was a true golfer now. That night, the committee talked to me. They were replacing my caddy on the grounds that it'll help me play better. Before I could comment, Eddie broke down.
You know I can't pay you, Eddie.
I wouldn't do it for $10. I wouldn't do it for 100.
You think I'd replace you?
They said you'd want
Here's
to.
what they said.
I actually felt guilty because I couldn't afford to pay his high salary. But Eddie was brilliant, and I wouldn't replace him.
Don't ever talk to my caddy again.
Representing America, I had reached the finals.
The course was packed with spectators. More viewers, reporters, and cameras than ever before were all focused on me, the miracle from Brookline. But I knew they weren't here to see me win. They just wanted to witness how an ordinary caddy would crumble under pressure. Don't be afraid, I whispered to myself. At first I played well. My rhythm was steady, my mind calm, no different from the professional players. Every time I sank a putt, the crowd erupted in cheers. But I kept my composure.
I can play these guys, Eddie.
Yeah, who said you couldn't?
Harry Vardon remained precise and elegant, each of his swings as perfectly crafted as a sculpture. Yet today, I kept pace with him. The 18th hole, the final shot. Harry Vardon and I were tied for the lead. Destiny hinged on this last putt. As I approached the green, the wind seemed to still, and the surroundings grew quieter. Everyone held their breath. I stood up, placed my hands on the club, my palms slightly damp. Then I heard a child's voice call my name from the crowd. It was Eddie.
We need this for 72. You can do it. Read it, roll it, hold it.
I swung the club gently, the motion flowing with the same rhythm I'd practiced countless times.
The moment the ball dropped into the cup, my world stood still for half a second before erupting like a tidal wave. Cheers, applause, screams, I could hardly believe it. I had won. A working-class boy who'd practiced secretly outside backyard fences had won the US Open. With that childhood-found ball, with rejected practice sessions, with swing after swing stolen in the dead of night, I'd finally crossed the fence that had held me back all my life and arrived here.
Let's take it home with you.
Nobody's tried to stop me.